Welcome back to the shop. I am the Spirited Maker, and today we are going to do a shootout between Goof Off, Goo Gone, and 100% acetone. And we'll see which one gets the job done most effectively in a few different tests. So sit back, let's check them out. Alright, the first product we're going to test is acetone. What we have here is a generic brand, 100% acetone nail polish remover. You can get it at any store pretty much for cheap. It's made to take nail polish off, so I'm sure it can take off other things. So we're going to find out, compare it to the other products. So first contender is acetone. Alright, the next contender we have here is Goof Off Pro Strength Remover. Dried latex paint, adhesive and glue, asphalt and tar. This is supposed to be pretty strong stuff. So our second contender here is Goof Off. We'll see how it does. I think this is probably the most expensive product we have today. I can't remember exactly how much, but we'll factor it in. And the third product we have here is called Goo Gone Pro Power Goo and Adhesive Remover. Wood glue, adhesives, grease, tar. We're going to test this stuff, see how it goes. So, surface safe. Let's compare the three in a couple of different tests. So, here we go. Goo Gone, product 3. Alright, first test we're going to do, we're going to place some of the products on styrofoam and see how it reacts to them. So, first test for acetone on styrofoam. Oh, well. Didn't take long for that to take effect. Acetone definitely will eat through styrofoam, no problem. Interesting. Gooey at the bottom. Alright, let's try Goof Off, see if it acts the same way. Okay, here we go with some Goof Off. Let's see how it reacts to it. Pretty much similar, but not quite as strong reacting. Goof Off definitely eats through the styrofoam, but not to the degree that acetone does. I'm sure if I add enough, it'll go right through it. But interesting. Pretty much the same as acetone. So that's Goof Off with styrofoam. Next up, the Surface Safe Goo Gone. So this one sprays on. Let's see what it does. Okay, we got it all over it. It's got a citrus smell to it. Goo Gone does not eat through styrofoam. So we know it's safe on styrofoam. The first two ate right through it. Goo Gone definitely has not. So if you're looking for something that maybe ain't as harsh, Goo Gone might be what you're looking for. So that's the first test. We're going to move on to the second test, which is going to be, let's see if Let's see if the products can erase permanent marker off of plastic. So I'm going to spray it onto a blue shop towel on each one and we'll see how they do. Give me a second. Okay, the first product we're going to use is acetone again for, let's see if it'll erase permanent marker off of plastic. Yes, it does. Quite easily. So, acetone passes this test pretty easily. No more permanent marker. Alright, let's get a new towel and we will use Goof Off down here. So let's see how Goof Off does to permanent marker. Goof Off. Took it right off. Permanent marker, not so permanent. This is ink pen up here. Took that off too. Alright, let's see how Goo Gone does. So, Goo Gone on a new towel. Does it take permanent marker off? It does, but not nearly as easily. Look at that, you can still see some. It's definitely not as strong as the other two products, but there might be instances, you know, where you want something that's not quite as harsh, so you don't mess up the underlying structure. There we go. Goo Gone was definitely the hardest to get the permanent marker, but it did eventually get it off. So all three took permanent marker off of plastic. Let's move on to the next test. Alright, next up we have labels. We're going to try and remove these labels off of these boxes. They're all the similar labels and they've all been stored in a back storage shed for about 5 years. So they all have had equal time to age and dry. So we're going to set them up one at a time, spray or coat the labels with the product and give them the proper amount of time to sit. And we'll see which one does the best job at removing old labels. So let's get to it. Okay, first up we have acetone. I'm just going to apply it on a shop rag and coat it as best I can. Make sure it's thoroughly soaked. Let's see, I may even just pour it on it. So, there we go. Definitely soaked. There's really no recommended time on this, so let's give them each about a 10-minute soak and then we'll check it out. So, be back in 10 minutes. Okay, it's been right at 10 minutes. Let's see if this label comes off any. Not doing too bad. Not too bad. Didn't leave any glue. So the acetone has passed the test of the label remove. Let me get it set up and we'll move on to Goo Gone. Okay, next up we have Goo Gone. And this one has a spray nozzle, so we're just going to saturate it with the spray nozzle. And it says wait 5 to 10 minutes, so we're going to do 10 minutes just like we did with the acetone. And we'll come back and we'll see how well Goo Gone does on removing labels. All right, it has been right around 10 minutes. Let's see if Goo Gone has enabled us to get this. Definitely not as easy as the acetone, but it did loosen up the glue so it was easy to get off. But you could definitely tell the difference between this and the acetone. So it did pass. Let's try Goof Off now. Give me a second to set up. All right, last up is Goof Off. So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna coat it, and then we're gonna give it a few minutes to sit, and then we'll see if it peels off easy. Okay, it's been right at 10 minutes for the Goof Off. Let's see how it did. Get it started. Ooh, not quite the same as the other two. Shot from a different angle. Yeah, that's doing better. But not quite as penetrating as the other ones. Let's see if adding a little more and just scraping it will help. Oh yeah, and it does do the job. It just didn't do it quite as well as the other two. Yeah, maybe if you put it on a rag or something and keep it right next to it, it might do a little better. But it did do the job, just to me not quite as well as the other two. So in this test, it seems acetone won. We got a couple more tests, so we'll see who wins in the end. This next test is simply called Will It Burn? I'm going to pour a little in here and see if it'll light on fire. We'll start with acetone. Just a little. We don't want any more accidents. Will acetone burn? Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Might want to get the rest of it away. It burns really well. Let's let it burn out. Ah, acetone, quite flammable. All right, next up, let me get set up for Goof Off. Next up in the Is It Flammable test is Goof Off. Pour some in there, not a lot. Will it light? Oh, yes, Goof Off is indeed flammable. Wow, interesting. Little poppy there. But Goof Off is indeed flammable. So let's move on to the next, which is Goo Gone. Next up on the Is It Flammable test, Goo Gone. Is Goo Gone flammable? And the answer to that is no. Goo Gone is not flammable. So there we have it. 2 of the 3 are flammable. Goo Gone is not, and that may be a deciding factor to somebody. That could be an important safety feature there. So let's move on. Would you look at that? Somebody took this nice piece of hardwood and got gum all over it, and even wrote on it with permanent marker. I cannot believe that. Alright, let's see if any of these help get the gum off and the marker off of this wood. Unbelievable. Alright, first up is the acetone. We're just going to soak it and see what it does. And move on to the Goof off and the Goo Gone. We're just going to do them all at once. Whoa. See what it, even the lettering. All right. Next up, Goof off. And finally, Goo Gone. Cannot believe someone would do this to this nice piece of hardwood. Unbelievable. All right, let's give them 5 minutes, see if any of them will come off. Okay, it's been 5 minutes. The acetone and the Goof off seem to have dried out some, while the Goo Gone has not dried out. And these seem to be alcohol based because they both are flammable. So let's see if I can get this gum off of this here nice piece of wood. We'll start by scraping. All right, let's use a shop towel with the original acetone. And we want to see if it takes off the writing as well. Oops, sorry. Gum is gone. The writing is not. So, acetone gets the gum off the hardwood, but not the permanent marker. All right. Let's move on to Goof off. Let's move on to Goof off. New piece of shop rag. Let's try some Goof off on it. It's getting the gum very well, same as the acetone, but not the permanent marker. So, look at over here. You can still see where the gum was. I think you can still see it here as well. I think as it dries, you'll be able to see it more. Let's move on to Goo Gone. My goodness, it doesn't dry out quick, does it? Interesting. The gum definitely feels a little different. It's like it's stringier, gooier. Let's put it on a new shop towel. See what happens here. I don't think any of them are getting the marker off. So this is interesting. I'm going to allow this to sit overnight and dry out all the way. I hope it dries out. That may not dry out. You definitely can see where the gum was on both of the prior ones. The Goo Gone, I think you probably can as well, but it's all wet still. Let's let it sit overnight and come back and check this in the morning. See how what's left of the gum looks. That's very interesting. See you in the morning. All right, it's the next day. Everything is dried. And let's look. So, all three of them left some kind of stain residue where the gum was on the wood. And none of them got off the permanent marker. Although the Goof Off and the acetone did better at lightening it. The Goo Gone left it full strength. But they all got the gum off. I imagine sanding would get it back down to a nice looking piece of hardwood. But that's the results. Let's move on. And here we are at the end. Let me sum up my thoughts on each one of these as a conclusion. The acetone held its own really well against these two. So I'm very impressed by it. I thought it would be not nearly as good because it evaporates pretty quick, but it held its own and it is the cheapest. It and the Goof Off both are flammable, so that may be something you need to take into account when using these. So just to let you know. The Goof Off probably performed on average the best, but it is the most expensive. And the acetone, which is much cheaper, pretty much performed equally. So it's up to you if you want to decide that it's worth it. The Goo Gone was obviously the weakest of the three. It's the only one that did not eat through styrofoam, while the other two just ate it away. So it definitely is a safer product to use, and it did relatively well compared to the other two. It lagged behind slightly, but only slightly, and it definitely smells the best out of all of them. It's got an orange smell. And these two have some kind of alcohol smell that you would think so, since they evaporate quickly. So which one would I get? Well, I guess it would depend on the situation. If it's something I don't want to destroy, I definitely am going to go with the Goo Gone. But if something that is metal, or I know that these won't eat through it, these will do the job quicker. So that is where I'm going to leave it. I appreciate everybody who has tuned into this video. I want to thank you for the time. And I want you to, if you can, subscribe and like the video, all that fun YouTube stuff. And as always, my friends, I want to say God bless, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for stopping by.